Okay, for daily 5 today, we are going to be working on writing. That's what we're going to focus on today. So that means you need your writer's notebook and a pen or a pencil. Thank you, Alba, for being ready. Good job. Okay. This is going to be a kind of fun writing exercise, I hope, for you. What you work on in class is what you're going to turn in on daily 5 today during or on Moodle. Okay, so what we do in class is what you're going to submit in Moodle. So everybody needs to be ready to work here in class. All right. You may remember, hopefully, that we have been talking about ways in which authors and writers can come up with fresh new ideas to write a narrative. Okay, hopefully you remember that writing a personal narrative, before we can even write, we have to come up with some good ideas in which to write about. Okay, and we've talked about these before, so we're going to review really quick what we've already talked about, what we've already taken notes on, and then we're going to practice a new way of writing. Okay, so here we go. Remember, we talked about how we need to brainstorm and we think of small moments, and you guys did that, and you created a list of small moments that might be a good idea. Remember, we listed the ingredients for a good small moment, and then you guys drew out your 6 different ideas for a small moment. You selected the one you thought was best. Okay, that was one way that a writer could come up with a new story idea. Then a different day, Emmanuel, you have a question?
Yeah, do we have to write something on our paper or do something because my internet was bad and I couldn't hear anything?
Not yet. Okay.
Okay.
All right. At the very end today, you'll write, but not yet. Then we talked about turning points. Remember, we made a list of turning points, moments where things changed, and you guys thought about first times and last times and times where you learned something important, and we realized that those are other things that might help us think of stories that we can write about. Okay, we've already talked about that. And then we listed those out. Remember, first time we did something, last time we did something, the lessons that we learned, and we wrote those things down. But today is my most favorite because today we're going to talk about how we can get story ideas, generate story ideas from our emotions. Because strong emotions can equal super powerful stories. All right, so I'm going to give you an example. And this is an example that I did today, okay? Because it's not fair for me to always have you do the writing and have me never do the writing. So I took some time today and I first thought in my head, what is a strong emotion? Okay, and I thought of some different strong emotions. And then the one that stood out to me most, I chose that emotion. And then I thought about a time when I felt that emotion. Okay, so I thought of lots of different emotions. Then I picked that emotion that stood out the most. And then I thought of a time in my life where I felt that emotion very strongly. Okay, and that's what I wrote about. So to now I'm going to give you an example of what I picked and what I wrote so that you get a good example of what I'm talking about and what I expect from you today. Okay, because in a moment you're going to also be thinking of your own strong emotion story. Okay, so as you listen to my strong emotion story, this is a true story from my life. I want you to also be thinking of what strong emotions you might be able to write about. Genesis, you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay, do we have to change our stories for this?
Because I don't know. I don't think my story has strong emotion.
Yeah, we're just practicing coming up with ideas for stories. We haven't picked our final story yet. So everybody's going to pick a new thing to write about today. Okay, and I see a couple other hands. Matthias, you have a question?
Yes. And so we're gonna write about the strong emotion.
Yeah, you're going to write about a time in your life where you felt a strong emotion. Rafa, you have a question?
How many? How many? Oh, can I continue?
Yeah, sorry, Matthias.
Yeah. How many sentences does
It's
you
going
need
to
to
be a
read?
page.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Can we start?
What?
You're not going to start yet. First, I want you to look at the example so you get a good idea of what I'm talking about. Don't start because
Okay.
you might do it wrong. Isaki, you have a question?
What if we can't remember a story?
Well, then you'll have to think harder because that's the assignment today. All right, let me give you my example. And then if you have questions at the end, then we'll have time for questions. Okay, so I'm going to read to you my story, and my emotion that I picked to write from is nervousness. All right, so I thought, when was a time that I felt nervousness? And then I wrote a story. And this is the story that I wrote today. Okay. It says, back in 2010, I was waiting all alone on a tarmac in Florida. I was waiting to board a very small plane that would take me first to a tiny island in the Bahamas and then on to the island of Haiti. It may sound like a nice vacation, but in fact, where I was headed would be the complete opposite of a holiday trip. I was nervously waiting for a plane that would take me to a country that I had never visited, filled with the people whom I never met, who spoke a language I had never heard. Nervous doesn't begin to describe the feelings that were raging through my body. Once on the plane, I thought I would feel better, but then they started loading the plane with chickens and pigs and all sorts of random animals that I had not imagined would be taking this trip with me. Once we touched down on the small island before our final destination, we, myself and a few men, boarded an even smaller plane and were flown to Haiti, where we would be attempting to land at an airport that had just been demolished by the giant earthquake that had just rocked the nation of Haiti. Thankfully, we were able to land, but even though we had touched down, my nerves had not calmed down. As we disembarked our plane, we were swarmed by people yelling and shouting in Creole and grabbing at our bags. We were met by some guys who were there to get us to our base camp, where we would be staying, and their presence was the only thing that offered my heart a bit of peace. That peace was quickly washed away as we drove through the chaos that had replaced the city of Port-au-Prince following the 7.0 earthquake just days before our arrival. Everywhere I looked, all I could see was the piles of cement and the twisted, broken rebar where buildings had just been. All right, so here's some pictures that I included for you from my trip to Haiti. All right, so the first one is the first plane that we took to the Bahamas. And then this red and blue plane was our small, little tiny plane that those three guys and myself got on. And there's me on the plane on our way to Haiti. This is what we saw when we got there. The whole city looked like this. All right, totally destroyed by the earthquake. All right, so now it's going to be your turn. You're going to think of any strong emotion, and then you're going to write that strong emotion at the very top of your page, and then fill up your page just like I did with a story based on that emotion. Now, if you look, my story is not perfect. I haven't gone back and edited it. It's missing some commas and it's missing some other things that I might change if I was going to rewrite my story. But it is a good first attempt at my story. Okay, it's not the end of my story. I only just began my story, but I filled up my page and I have my emotion up at the top. And that's what you're going to do today. You're going to pick one strong emotion And then you're gonna write 1-page story that happened to you with that emotion as your inspiration. Lucas, you have a question.
Yes, can I do it on Google Docs?
Nope, you're gonna do it in your writer's notebook. Marley?
Does it have to be like it's past, present, or future?
You can write it however you want. Okay, and I don't expect it to be perfect. I just expect you to give it a go. Okay, so you're gonna fill up 1 page nicely. I do expect that you use paragraphs and you indent each time you start a new paragraph, okay? Because we've been practicing that all year long. And I expect capitals and periods, but if the spelling isn't perfect, that's okay. If you missed some commas or something, that's okay. But you need to try your best. Adrielle, you have a
I have
question?
another question.
Okay.
Do we need to submit it in Moodle?
Yes, you're gonna turn it into Moodle today. Marley?
Will it, is this going to be part of our personal narrative or no?
It might be if you decide that you really like this story, but right
Okay.
now we're just practicing getting different kinds of stories. Okay, so if you decide, ooh, that was a good start, then this might become your personal narrative. But if you write it and you think, I don't really have any more to say, then you might never finish this story. Okay. Isaki,
Miss, I still don't remember a story.
okay. Well, keep thinking. Alba,
How many sentences does it need to have?
you need to fill up your whole page of your writer's notebook.
Oh, okay. What does it need to be about? A strong feeling?
Any strong emotion.
Okay.
All right. Vic, you have a question?
So we have to fill a whole page from our writing notebook
Yes.
of a strong feeling.
Yep. A story that you remember when you think about that strong feeling. Okay. So I picked nervousness. Now, I did not feel nervous the whole time I was in Haiti, but when I think of nervousness, it made me think of my trip to Haiti. Okay. So I started out really nervous, and at different times in the trip, I felt nervous, but I wasn't nervous the whole time I was there. But it's still a good idea to get me started on my story. But maybe you felt joy, maybe you felt sadness. It doesn't matter. It can be happy or sad or scared.
Mess.
Okay, any of those things. Genesis question?
Maybe the
I can't hear you again.
now?
Yeah, don't yell though.
Sorry. Can the story be the same story we chose for the last writing assignment?
Yeah, if your one of the stories that you put in your small moments has a lot of emotion, then that's fine. But if it doesn't have any emotion, then you need to pick something else. Okay, because the idea is to pick a story that has a lot of emotion. Ariana?
Miss, what we have to do when my internet was bad and I couldn't hear?
You need to write a 1-page story that's based on a strong emotion. Vicky?
Does it have to be front and back of the page?
No, just one side. Emmanuel?
Can we leave and do it, or do we have to stay here?
You need to stay here. Adrielle?
Do we need to put a title for what emotion it is?
Yep, you need to write the emotion at the top of your page.
Okay.
All right. Adrielle? Oh, sorry. Amelia?
How do you spell recital?
RECITAL. Emmanuel,
How do you spell nervous?
Nervous.
Do we start?
Yep, you can start. Genesis,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, I'm not really sure what was I feeling in my story. It was kind of like joy and happiness at the same time.
Well, joyfulness you could put.
It was like in my concert. I felt like I wanted to enjoy the moment, so how would I say that?
Well, you need to write a whole page about it. So if it's a story that you remember really well with details that was filled with an emotion, then that's what you should write about.
Okay.
Okay? Marcos,
Can I write it with
Mine
pen?
was like happy and it's like sad.
well, you
So can I
what?
put like happy and then slash sad?
Sure.
Okay.
Samuel,
Could I write about it was Christmas and I got my new Nintendo?
if you have a very strong emotion
Yeah, that was the best
and it
moment
has a
ever.
lot of detail because you got to write a whole page.
Okay.
All right, Vic, Vic, did you have a question?
Does it have to have punctuations and capital letters and everything?
Always.
So we have to make it like a little perfect.
Well, you need to try your best. If it's not perfect, that's okay, but I want you to try your best. Saki, you have a question?
Miss, do we have what we have at the end of this class? We have to submit even if it's not a full page.
You need to write a full page. If you don't finish right now, you have to finish before you submit it. Marley,
Does the emotion, the name of the emotion, does it have to be the title?
well, you need to write it at the top. You can make a different title if you want to, but put the emotion at the top so I know what you were feeling. Okay, and remember all those things that we've been practicing that you guys picked out to copy from good authors. Remember, we want to include dialogue. We want to paint pictures with our words. Okay, we want to be great authors that are creative and descriptive. Genesis,
Yes. Can I write with pen?
yes. Santiago,
Miss, how do you say the centro here in Bolivia, in Santa Cruz?
how do you say what?
Centro. Oh, right.
The city center?
Yeah.
City center. Or the plaza. Samuel,
Do we need to finish in here in the class or could we finish outside?
you can finish outside, but you need to stay here and work on it until 12 o'clock.
Okay.
Marley,
What if I write about what if I write about what I'm going to write for the personal narrative? Then what we're going to write for the personal narrative, then I'll have to do it again, right?
probably. Vic,
Wait, but does this story have to be based on a true story?
yes. It's something that happened to you. Samuel,
Could it be like like 50% true and another 50% false, or does it need to be like
No, it
100%?
needs to be true, but you can make the details a little bit bigger or smaller if you need to.
Okay,
But it should
thank
be true.
this one's
Isaki,
Miss, what emotions can we